Howdy folks, this is Father Dougal 9000 here, and welcome to another episode of Dougal's Game Finish Chronicles, a series where I talk about the games I've played and beaten as part of the Game Finish Challenge off of the Hardcore Gaming 101 forum. This is one of those times where, despite the games I'm talking about being quite cool and interesting, I can't think of anything to say as an introductory prelude bit. They kind of speak for themselves, or I speak for them as such, so I guess why have a redundant preamble beforehand? Instead of that, here's a joke. What do you call it when a boat becomes introspective? Navel gazing! Today's games were originally logged from the 5th to the 11th of April 2021. Crystal Towers 2 XL for the Windows. This is a pretty cool collectathon 2D platformer developed by DavidXNewton, and it's an expanded version of the 2011 game Crystal Towers 2, with a bunch of new stages, bosses, and various tweaks to both the gameplay and presentation. The game's structured much like Super Mario Sunshine, where levels have a series of missions that reward you. There are the magic orbs, which are the main mission, of which there's one per stage, and then 7 rainbow gems that act as side missions. You can also find magic spells, scrolls, keys, and crafting items, which are used to both upgrade your abilities and give you access to more levels alongside the orbs and gems. I've always dug the idea of having 2D platformers being structured like collectathons. Ever since I played an old Sonic the Hedgehog 2 hack called Retro Remix back in 2012, which does much the same thing as this. And I find that Crystal Towers 2 is a pretty great take on that concept. The main mechanics are solid, missions are often quick so you can get a lot done in very little time, and there's plenty of secrets to discover within the levels and the central hub world. However, I specified that it was structured like Sunshine in particular because you can only do one mission at a time, and it has to be in whatever order you get those missions. This can cause some problems if a level hands you a mission you can't overcome, which then blocks you off from getting the rest of that level's gems. This happened to me quite a few times with the make sure you don't run out of the little gem shards you can collect mission cropping up so early in certain stages. Some of these can be overcome by getting certain abilities or upgrading your health and magic, but others just require luck to make it through depending on what you are comfortable doing yourself. It's alleviated somewhat by how you can go to other stages, though that itself is marred by the hub area being this enormous castle where it's fairly easy to get lost. You do have little arrows pointing out nearby level entrances, but you don't know which levels they are apart from bosses. You have to get a scroll and the right ingredients in order to make an upgrade that tells you which levels are nearby, and I don't know, to me that just seems like a deeply unnecessary complication to what is already, for me, the game's biggest issue. But apart from that, I really dug Crystal Towers 2, and I frequently spend way more time per session than I intended to while listening to podcasts. I don't really talk about game length, but it took me nearly 14 hours to beat this, and I didn't even do one of those 100% runs that some folks really like doing, so if you are one of those folks, then you are gonna have a hell of a time with this. It's available both on Steam and itch.io for a few bucks, and yeah, I'd absolutely recommend giving it a go if this sounds anywhere near up your alley. Moon Waltz for the browser. This is a short but cool flash game I stumbled across the other night, developed by Molkman and Maju Arts, as one of the monthly games they were making at the time. The concept is that a man is going out to the cigarette dispensing machine for a smoke one night, but you don't control him. he moves automatically, and all you can do is part the clouds by holding space. Doing so reveals a full moon, and then the man transforms into a rampaging werewolf so long as the clouds are parted. What the man does when he encounters certain objects changes depending on whether or not he is a werewolf. So there's actually plenty of different things you can make him do by choosing when to hold space, or not, which is an equally valid option too. You can cause all kinds of stuff to happen. There's the obvious killings, but you know, a lot of things can go quite out of control, and there's multiple endings that are driven by what you've done, no matter what you've done. Since there's no health or time meter that impacts your decision making, you're free to replay this one as many times as you like to see what else is there to see. I only played it the once since it was the middle of the night, and I'm fairly sure I just did nothing. Maybe press the button a couple of times to figure out the game's mechanics, but just let the man go and get a cigarette, and then walk back home, and it was an uneventful game. But hey, that's pretty rad that I could do that, and it's rad that there's so much that you are allowed to do. And there's some neat art direction too. I recommend giving it a go if you like the L Flash video games. There shall be a link in the old description. I hope it is interesting. Professor Layton and the Spectre's Call for the Nintendo DS. Professor Layton, that is a series I had struggled to get into during the early 2010s. I deeply loved the Eternal Diva movie and felt the games would absolutely be my thing, but try as I might, I could never really get into them because of how confounding the puzzles could be. I've come to appreciate them more in recent years, especially the first game, Curious Village, and when my sister offered to give me the 4th and 6th games for my birthday, I decided I should give it one more shot. Spectre's Call, as it was called in Europe, I think it's called The Last Spectre in the Dirty Americas, is the first game in the prequel trilogy, and deals with the first case where Layton and his self-proclaimed apprentice Luke would work together. It's a pretty cool game, with a lot of the stuff I've come to love about Layton games. Their relaxed atmosphere, the cast of quietly eccentric characters, the excellent music by Tomohito Nishiura, and some truly lovely background art. Misthallery in particular has become my favorite town in the Layton games because of how cozy it is, with its winding streets surrounded by greenery and canals, small houses and buildings, and walkways that ensure you never needed to drive to get anywhere you need to go. Sounds like my kind of town. Puzzles sometimes elude me, mainly due to explanations or puzzle types that my brain blanked out on pretty badly, but I was able to get through plenty of them without trouble. Plus, there's a good deal of hint coins to help you out if you need, and a few minigames you can mess about with if you want to take a break. A nice touch is that there are bonus optional episodes, which act as short conversations with other characters that occur before or during the game's events. I never bothered with them much myself because I wanted to continue experiencing the world from Layton and his assistant Emmy's perspective, but it's a really cool thing to have for the people who like all the slice of life, chatting with people stuff. I haven't played much of Diabolical Box and Lost Future in years, so I can't say whether this would rank higher than those two, but it's a very solid game that only just loses out to Curious Village because I really dig that game's quietly melancholic vibe and how it frames the puzzles better than the other games. Also, I know that the American and Japanese version has a bonus RPG called London Life, made by Brownie Brown, the Sword of Mana Mother 3 team of all people, but it was not included in the European release, so I wasn't able to give it a look. Sorry. And with that, we've wrapped up another episode of the series. I hope that you enjoyed watching, and that you'll tune in for the next video. Thank you so much, and until we meet again, have a wonderful day.